Life is on hold. For how long and what will it mean? Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Ann Fisher, host of All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News. Dale Butland, Democratic strategist, and Bob Clegg, Republican strategist. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. Welcome to the new normal. We look a little different. We're trying to continue the show and keep our staff and our panelists healthy. Dale and Bob are joining us from undisclosed locations. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Dale?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. And you know, this is great because I always try to keep my distance from Bob.
Now you got a real excuse, Dale.
Indeed. Ann Fisher, you've been working hard all week on the radio here in the basement of the Fawcett Center for Tomorrow.
Right.
It's good to work in a fallout shelter, isn't it?
It is very, very different, very quiet and intense.
Days.
Yeah, strange days.
It really has become a war footing against an unseen enemy. We know it's among us. Each day, the number of coronavirus cases grows. On Friday, we learned the virus claimed its first life in Ohio. To slow its spread, Governor DeWine and Health Director Amy Acton have taken bold steps. They've closed schools, they've closed bars and restaurants, called off an election even. DeWine's been pleading with non-essential businesses to voluntarily protect employees, keep them home. He says too many businesses are not, and a closure order may be coming.
Let me make it very, very clear that I will err on the side of protecting people. So, no announcement today, but the bad behavior, the reckless behavior must stop.
It is time to heed this call. You need to stay home. If you can at all stay home with your family, you need to follow the guidance that we have provided and take it seriously so that we can protect our essential workers.
And Fisher, a different reality after the first death was confirmed today. Ohio's been ahead of the curve when it comes to canceling things, but Mike DeWine was not quite ready to shut everything down. Not yet.
A lot of us thought he might go to daycare centers. He did talk about senior centers today and senior daycare centers, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know, but he didn't go the whole 10 yards or whatever you call it, whatever the sports analogy is.
Yeah, a lot of sports analogies, a lot of metaphors.
No sports, a lot of analogies.
We are recording the show on a Friday afternoon, so just so things have changed in the story so quickly, just so we can put that out there. But Dale, how do you see how the governor's been doing? He's gotten a lot of bipartisan support for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, I think this has been a tale of two responses, basically. I think the governors, for the most part, Governor DeWine here in Ohio, Governor Cuomo in New York, Governor Newsom in California, they've all just been spectacular. They've been led by science, they've been following the medical advice, and above all, they've been honest with people. Honest about the scope of the threat that's facing us and about the changes to our day-to-day lives that are going to be required. So I think they've done wonderfully well. In Washington, I think it's been a little different story. We have a president who, after weeks of downplaying the virus, or at least the threat posed by the virus, calling it a Democratic hoax fueled by the news media, now he's changed his tone, and that's good. But by the same token, he goes to these news conferences every day and is a fount of misinformation. Every day, he says that Google has developed a website when they haven't. He says everyone can get tested that needs a test when they can't. He says that a vaccine is imminent when, in fact, it's a year away. Yeah. So I just wish we had the same kind of steady leadership in Washington that we have back in the States, like with Governor DeWine.
Bob Clegg, the criticism, there hasn't been much criticism of Mike DeWine that I've seen, but it's mainly come from conservatives, because they thought he was too quick to shut down bars and restaurants, too quick to tell people to stay home and shut down the economy. What's your take on it?
Well, there are a lot of people that, believe that government shouldn't have the right to shut down businesses, but obviously we're in a different situation. And, he did the right thing. I think the governor has looked great in all of this. His director of health, Amy Acton, has become a rock star now.
Yeah.
With the job she's done. This is something the states are on the front lines for. The federal government can be there to help, but it's really the states that have to be the ones that are in the front lines of this battle. And, let me just respond briefly to Dale's partisan slam, which really isn't appropriate for a time like this. But let me state that, the president did the most important thing he could do, and that was January 31st, shutting down all flights from China. Now, Joe Biden said he was xenophobic for doing that. Thank God we didn't have President Biden making that decision, or we'd be facing a much tougher situation than we already are.
But on the tone issue, Bob, I mean, you look at Mike DeWine, he's very serious, dramatic, sobering. And, generously you could say that Trump is being optimistic. Not so generously you could say he's being dismissive. Should Donald Trump change his tone a bit? Be a little more somber?
I think the president's doing it the way he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, also at the same time, the president has to be sure that he's not panicking people either. And I don't think he's been doing a lot of happy talk. I mean, this isn't China. He's been very upfront with the American people. I'm amazed at the amount of time that he spends at these daily press conferences where he's answering every single question that reporters have. A lot of them, not a lot of them, a few of them are, questions that are meant for, other reasons. But I think he's been doing a great job in handling the country and doing what he needs to do to try to make sure a panic doesn't ensue throughout the whole country.
Okay, let's get back and focus on Ohio. And Amy Acton, the state's director of public health, we didn't know who she was 2 weeks ago.
Well, I've actually had her on the show, but yeah, go ahead.
All right. Ann knew who she was. And Governor DeWine knew who she was. He hired her. I mean, she really has just been the calm in the storm here.
She has, and I had her on, and I was thrilled well, for one thing, the whole administration of DeWine's has been so much more open and willing to come on the show anyway. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, when I had the first, bit on I think it was on during Wellness Wednesday, she came on for the whole segment willingly and was thrilled to be on. She, from the very beginning, it's always been about reaching as many people as possible and giving them the most informative, fact-based, and honest warnings and cautionary tales.
Dale, were you surprised that Governor DeWine shut the bars and restaurants down when he did? He was, I think, one of the first states to do that, if not the first state to do that.
No, I'm not. I think that he was proactive, and I think that is going to happen now all over the country. But Mike, with your permission, I would like to go back and talk a little bit about this thing with Washington, because it bears directly on the state of Ohio and all the other states. And that is this. Look, in state after state, governors have been telling us, they've been going to the national news media, and even the ones who have been out front most have been saying, look, we are in danger of having our medical systems overwhelmed. That's true in Ohio. It's also true in New York and California, and it's going to be true all over the country. They are desperately in need of things like ventilators. New York is going to need 30,000 ventilators alone. We're talking about protective equipment for our doctors and nurses, the masks, the gowns, the gloves, because if they get sick, then they can't take care of the rest of us. We have shortages all over the country. And what the president has done, in essence, if you listen to the news conferences, he's told the governors they're on their own. Try to find it yourself.
Bob, let me get a response from Bob.
He has authority under the National Defense.
This is not the time, Dale, to be a political hack.
Let me finish the point. He's got authority under the National Defense Production Act May I finish, Bob? He's got authority under the National Defense Production Act, which he invoked but has not yet used. He can require companies to produce these items that we need. That was the purpose of the act. And then the federal government has to act like the traffic cop, because if you just have governors all out there trying to gather this stuff, you're going to have stuff going to the wrong places, because this surge, when it comes, isn't going to hit every city and state at the same time.
Bob, let me ask you Let me ask Bob a question. Bob, you're right that Donald Trump was very early in calling for that travel ban. I think most people give him credit for acting quickly. Even though in hindsight, even Democrats say that they may have been.
The Democrats.
Yeah, I know. Democrats criticized it at the time.
Democrats at that time were too busy with impeachment to worry about the health of our country. Remember that.
Could the president have acted more proactively in ordering ventilators, getting testing for the virus, getting personal protection equipment, PPEs for healthcare providers? Had he done that right after the travel ban?
Well, I don't know if we knew then what the extent was. Remember, we're only looking at this after what happened to Italy, okay? China has not been upfront at all regarding this whole virus. They weren't telling us how bad it is, what's going on, or any of that. So we were kind of doing this blindly. That's why it was so important that the president shut down those flights, because guess what? Italy didn't do that. And look what kind of shape they're in now. Okay. And Dale, you got to quit with trying to make Joe Biden elected president through coronavirus, because that's all you're doing right now.
I don't think I mentioned Joe Biden at all, but
but Dale, come on, I know where you're coming from. Give me a.
Let's get back to Ann.
All right, you guys. All right, I mean,
time out.
Just time out for a second. I mean, yeah, I mean, here's the situation. The way I see it is, no one can be above criticism, constructive criticism. We have to look at this whole thing, and we have to be watching what our leaders are doing. We're as eager as we are to compliment the governor on what he's doing. We also have to be critically looking at what all of them are doing. So we have to be critical in a literary sense, not critical in a political sense. And you know, when the president said that the federal government wasn't the supply clerk for the states, that made me sit up and take notice. What is he saying? In an emergency? No, I know, Bob, that's not partisan. I sat there and watched it with the rest of America when he said that. And the fact of the matter is, if the federal government has to be the supply clerk for the states, then it jolly well better be the supply clerk for the states if that's what it takes to keep Americans safe. Now, that's not partisan. That's just a fact. And we can't put people above criticism because we're in a presidential election year, and that goes for everybody.
Let's get to some of the basics. Hospitals. USA Today analysis says that at the peak of this, there would be 14 patients for every available hospital bed in Ohio. And how do you prepare for this? I mean, a couple years ago, we were criticizing hospitals for building too many beds.
That's a good point, and we just knocked down a hospital on the east side, on the west side. Here's what we do. There's a hospital under construction in Marion, a brand new hospital. Get the hospital built so you can keep the other one open. That could be provided. I mean, I assume that they're thinking strategically in these ways. No, there is no way. Here's the only way you can really avoid this is to keep people from getting sick. That's the best.
Flattening the curve.
Yeah, but let me just say, there is one other thing, though, that we can do in that regard. Yes, it is true. The best way to do this is to flatten the curve to keep more people from getting sick. But we know right now that we're going to have this surge that is going to overwhelm our hospital capacity. So we can order the Army Corps of Engineers, who are great at building things, to build field hospitals out in parking lots next to regular hospitals. They can put up the tents. They can bring in the beds. Now, they have to have enough people to staff them, and we may not have enough. Maybe we can press retired doctors and nurses, and maybe upperclassmen medical schools and nursing schools, press them into service too. We're going to have to ramp up. President Trump rightly says he's a war president. If you're a war president, then you have to act like it. You have to mobilize the resources of our country, which
the Army Corps of Engineers have already met with the governor of New York to do exactly what you're saying, Dale. They met 2 days ago. The ship, they have the Navy's got one hospital ship that's going to be docked outside New York City to take non-coronavirus patients to relieve the strain. They have another one that's going from San Diego up to Los Angeles to help that. So yeah, those kinds of things are happening right now.
That's great, but we can't put a ship on the Scioto. We've closed a lot of rural hospitals in Ohio and much of the Midwest and western parts of the states. Are we paying the price for that now? Bob?
Well, I mean, if we could look ahead and see that we would have a pandemic like this,
Yeah.
maybe we were a little short-sighted, but I mean, who would have saw something like this ahead of us? And hospitals, like any other business, is always looking at the bottom line, and they got to remain profitable or they can't stay in business. So a lot of this is just business.
All right, let's get to the other big topic of the week, the political topic of the week. Of all the state's actions that created a stir, none so much was the governor's sudden decision Monday to call off Ohio's primary election. He did so 15 and a half hours before polls were set to open. The governor said it was not right to tell seniors and others at risk to stay home while urging them to go to the polls.
We should not force them to make this choice. A choice between their health and their constitutional rights and their duties as American citizens.
But it was not that simple. The governor does not have unilateral authority to stop voting. So we had a couple of senior citizens ask a judge to do it. The judge said no. And after 3 hours of total confusion, Health Director Amy Acton declared a health emergency and closed all of the polling places for health reasons. A few hours later, the Ohio Supreme Court did side with Mike DeWine. Bob Clay, just if we could take the situation out of it for a second, it was just an extraordinary move for the chief executive officer of the state to basically call off an election.
Yeah, I mean, never have seen that before. But
the only time I can recall is 9/11. 9/11, when the planes hit the towers, they stopped New York's primary on that day. But that's the only time I can recall it happening.
But the governor did the right thing. My only criticism is timing. Obviously, I wish they would have started this process maybe over the weekend versus the night before. I think the governor was counting on the courts to help him on this, and the courts, or at least the Franklin County Common Pleas Court was not going to help him out on this. So they had to go. Obviously, they had to switch plans and go another route here. But I think the bottom line is he did the right thing, especially when you consider the people that are at polling places. They tend to be, the workers themselves tend to be elderly. And even the people that turn out to vote on election day, a lot of them are older Ohioans. So I think he did the right thing by doing it. I just wish it had been a day or two before.
And why not call the legislature in emergency on a Saturday or Sunday before and have them do it and get it all over with?
Well, that, or have Amy Acton
do it first,
declare a public health threat and shut them down that way, which is what they ended up doing actually in the final analysis. That's exactly what they did. I don't know why. I don't know what was going through his head. I know it pained him, and I know that I believe he and John Husted, Lieutenant Governor John Husted, former Secretary of State, were very pained to do this, and it was an emotional thing for them. I agree with what they ended up doing. I agree with Bob. The timing was not great, and it confused people. I mean, people did show up at the polls, and they were ticked off, rightly so. It was confusing.
Dale, what did you make of the decision? Was it the right one, and how does it affect the election going forward?
Well, whether or not we should have postponed this week's primary is a subject on which reasonable people can disagree. Governor DeWine took one action. The governors of Florida, Arizona, and Illinois came down on the other side. They actually held their primaries. But certainly, if he was going to do it, he could have done it earlier. We could have avoided a lot of chaos and confusion. That's true. But now that it's done, I think the important thing now is that the state of Ohio begin gearing up right now to make sure we hold that primary as soon as possible and make it as easy as possible for people who have yet to cast their ballots to do so. I personally would like to see the state pay to send ballots to every registered voter in Ohio and the postage for it to come back. Now, obviously, only the people who haven't voted yet will be using that. Maybe we could set up curbside places where people could drop off ballots if they'd rather do it that way than put it in the mail. But the point is, we have to start gearing up to make sure this is done. And even more importantly, from a national perspective, we have to make sure, because we have an election coming up in November, and there's no guarantee that we'll be able to do in-person voting then. So I think it's important because, this country has never postponed a presidential election. Not during either World War, not during the Great Depression, not even during the Civil War. So if we can hold an election during a civil war, we can certainly do so now. We need to make sure that whatever steps are necessary, whether it's mail-in ballots or whatever, are done so that nobody can use this as an excuse to postpone a national election for the first time in our 225-year history.
Bob Clegg, is mail-in voting, complete mail-in voting, the way to go?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, and obviously we got to get the technology somehow so that we can actually vote, online. I think that's what we got to get to ultimately. But for now, yeah, I think mail-in voting would work, and I think probably that's going to be looked at fairly seriously
Next week. Yeah. And you could sort of tell that the legislators were on the same page as Mike DeWine. Larry Householder sent out a release the next day and said, we'll come in next week and we will legally postpone the election.
Right.
A little subtle jab. That
Yeah,
where were we in this whole
a
discussion?
little friction, and it does make you wonder if he picked up the phone and had a chat with anybody. He certainly should be. I mean, it's a three-pronged government, and we've seen, interestingly, the chief of the Supreme Court at press conferences, but not legislative leaders. So,
You guys are veterans of campaigns. What does this do to campaigns? I mean,
Wow.
there's school levies waiting for money. There's Columbus State Community College waiting for a bond issue.
I had a couple upset clients. I mean, you got to look at what's going. They spend thousands of dollars for that one day, and they're told, no, we're not going to vote that day. So they're looking at having to restart everything fairly soon, depending on when we're going to have an actual election day. So they weren't real happy, but it was the right thing to do, and the governor was right to do it.
I think the answer to your question, Mike, is that it's completely going to upend the way we normally do campaigns. I mean, campaigns by their nature are usually depend on rallies where your supporters come into a place. That's certainly true of President Trump, where rallies have been his primary means of campaigning. Now that he's not going to be able to do that, it'll be interesting to see what happens now that we have to go to basically a virtual campaign.
You could expect if someone loses a primary narrowly, or if a levy loses narrowly, or one side loses narrowly, legal challenges, Ann.
yeah, I think there already are legal challenges, and there probably will be. It's going to be interesting. It just depends on how we view this in a way. Is this an extension? Is it a postponement? It matters. The lexicon matters, and I don't know how they're going to rally this one in the end.
Sherrod Brown said that, Bob, I'll throw this to you first. Sherrod Brown said this is a warning that Donald Trump could use something similar. Legal experts say he can't do it, but do you see us canceling election? Dale said we haven't done it ever.
I was a little shocked to see Senator Brown come out with something like that, but I probably shouldn't have been. Nobody's going to use this as an excuse to delay an election. I think what they're going to do is they're going to look at, and that's, I hate to say, not a federal government thing again.
Yeah.
This is individual states are going to have to try to figure out how they can conduct voting in such a way that, they can get around this problem. And they got plenty of time now to think about this and work on it for November. So I don't see this being, that big of an issue if everybody prepares for it, which they have plenty of time to do.
But Dale, we have about a minute left to our off-the-record comments. You can see governors in different states, since this is a state issue. Trump-friendly governors doing it one way, and Biden, if he's the nominee, friendly governors doing it a different way.
Well, yeah, and not only that, we continue to look at things through the lens of what is happening on the ground now and today. We've got months to go before the November election. Right now, we only have a couple of states that have locked down. I think it's very probable that we will have more. And by the time we get to November, who knows what the situation is going to be in the nation. Yeah. But I think that Senator Brown was right to be concerned about this. And that's why I say, if we take steps now to ensure that this election can be conducted, maybe a lot of it will have to be by mail or online, yeah, or with curbside drop-off of ballots, as we saw in certain states like Oregon, Washington, and others.
All right, we got to get to our off-the-record comments. We'll get to our final thoughts here. Off-the-record parting shots. Bob Clegg, you go first.
Hey, as the father of 5, I've talked to my kids about this. I've told them they got to be serious about it. Young people have to take this coronavirus seriously. And because while they may not get that sick, they can pass it along to a lot of people who could get sick.
Dale Butlin.
Probably most people probably don't know that the so-called Spanish flu that killed millions of people in 1918 did not come from Spain. It originated in the state of Kansas. But in the end, where it came from really didn't matter. It became a global pandemic. So the next time you hear President Trump refer to COVID-19 as the Chinese flu, remember what he's really trying to do is deflect attention away from how he and his administration are responding to it.
And Ann Fisher.
I spent 30 years in newspapers, and I just want to commend all of the newspapers across the country, across the state, for the hard work that they're doing. Obviously, we know WOSU Public Media is covering it too, and so are the TV stations, but the newspapers are opening up their doors for free to give people access to information about the COVID-19, and I want to tell them thank you, and thanks for all the hard work they're doing.
And, of course, the radio's free, television's free, even over the air. So thanks to Ann Fisher, her crew. All of our reporters here at WOSU have been doing extraordinary work under difficult circumstances. So you can tune to WOSU 89.7 NPR News, log on to WOSU.org or here at WOSU TV. We'll try to give you just the facts, no filters, no spin, live coverage of all major news conferences here on radio and TV and online through WOSU Public Media. So for our crew and for our panel from wherever they are, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week and stay safe.
Healthy and safe, everyone.